about 4 scenes. And at one point, we're going to even ask for some volunteers to help with one of our exercises. So everyone has a packet of information, right? Can you leaf forward and find the area where it says script for initial telephone call? You didn't get a packet? You have extra packets? So as Ken said, these materials are something that you might be able to use right now, regardless of whether your agency is participating in the study. You might be able to start using them on Monday. If you're going to participate, if your agency is participating, you're probably going to get extra training on these materials, and they might be tailored specifically for your setting. So kind of keep that in mind as we're going through the forms. And also for our skit, we're going to function under the assumption that Janet and Craig are participating, and she has some resources available to her. She has a place where she can go to receive treatment. So we'll just eliminate that obstacle for the purposes of the skit. And we're going to start with, has everyone found the section in their forms that says script for initial telephone call? Page 5. This is not part of our script, but I didn't want to just pass it by. A lot of times you see scripts and you go, oh my gosh, these aren't my words. Like this, right? Scripts are important to get the key components. And the key component in this script is when you call somebody, nowadays with cell phones, most people have a cell phone. That's the phone number you usually have. You don't really know where they're going to be standing when you call them. They could be at the grocery store, they could be at a doctor's appointment, they could be at work. So it's always really important just to remember certain things when you're calling and be polite and say, is this a good time for you to talk? And if they say no, okay, great. When can I call you back? So that you can have a time to talk to them in private. That's just a simple thing. And rapport starts on the very first phone call, right? And people really want to be listened to. And so it starts with something so simple as just that first phone call. Is this okay? Okay, so now you've got a good time when you can talk to them. Explain the purpose of the call. And ask them questions. Do they have any questions? And listen to what they're saying. People want to be heard, right? Thank them. Make sure you give them your phone number in case they think of a question after you've hung up. Those are sort of the core components of this script. And you might want to change some of the wording so it sounds more natural to you, but those are the essential elements that are important in this initial phone call. And then keep track of stuff. Have you guys ever fell prey to the yellow sticky syndrome? You're writing, write down their name, their phone number, or sometimes, I do this all the time, I write down the phone number and I think I'm going to remember the name, as though this yellow sticky has really some unique quality to it. And then I come up with the yellow sticky with the phone number and I think, should I call it and see who answers? So get rid of the yellow stickies and use a sheet like this. And it has their name on it. It has their phone number. It has the best time to reach them. You can jot down their work schedule, whatever. Just simple things like that will help you in the long run. And then maybe you're having trouble getting a hold of them. You're leaving messages or you have a brief conversation. These little lines here are for you to keep track of that. And that gets back to listening. Maybe you started out the conversation and you needed to follow up. The next time you call back, you can go, hey, Janet, we talked last week and we talked about blah, 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 and you were going to find out blah, blah, blah. Did you find anything out? And right away, Janet knows that you listened to her. Instead of calling up her and going, out of sight, out of mind, you can't even remember what you guys talked about, and you're starting the whole process over again. So this is really there to help you just track conversations. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you memory space, right? Because you think something is so clear, and so I'll never forget this. This is so clear to me. And then next week, you go, well, what did we talk about? What was I supposed to do? Who was supposed to do something, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the purpose of this page. And then if you run out of space, there's a second page that says telephone call notes, just an extension. Any questions about that? Any comments? Or we want you to say, I can't use this, or I can use this. We really want to hear that from you. So don't feel like you're going to hurt our feelings. if you like or don't like something about the forms. Any comments? Yes.
When you say there's a callback number, you give them the callback number?
You give, yeah.
So suppose you're not in a place where you can write down all that information. You got any hints on that?
So you've given them your phone
In other
number.
words, you call and they say, no, this is not a good time. Well, here's my number.
Yes.
Call me back. So when they call you back, you're not sitting there with all these papers in front of you.
Exactly.
You're on the way
You're in
somewhere.
the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Same thing is true. You can say, you know what, thank you. It's just basic, simple, polite. Thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. Is it possible for us to talk later? I'm not at a point where I can talk to you or I don't have materials with you. Can we set a time? Okay, great. So that you don't just feel like they don't feel discounted. You really want to be grateful they called you back. Okay, I think we're ready for some skit. Any other comments about those first 3 forms? Tom?
We have success in following back to people like that. I mean, a lot
Craig,
of
do you
times
want
I
to
think
speak to
there'd be
that?
a question of successfully making the connections with people. If you have them once, you might not want to let go of them.
Right.
Call them back an hour later and then not be able to reach them.
Right. Craig, do you want to comment?
Well,
The question. Let's just repeat the question.
Repeat
We'd like to repeat the question so that for the purpose of the tape, so that.
okay, could you repeat the question?
So the question is just, do you have any qualms about letting go of a person when you have them on the phone, even if it's not a good time for you to talk, but because you're worried that you might have trouble connecting with them in an hour or a day, or something might happen to them in the interim, or issues like that. Do you have experience, or do you have pretty good success with that when you try to, reconnect?
So the question is, do you have any qualms about not talking to the person when you have them on the phone, and do you have any success in reconnecting with them? The short answer to that is it really, based on your experience in your conversation with the patient or the client, well, maybe I need to have this conversation or get a contact number or take a few minutes. I usually always try to carry a piece of paper with me so I can jot things down. And it's in an individual sort of judgment call as to whether or not you think you can find or reach out to this person. And we all know that we have clients who may not have a phone. They're at a phone for the moment. So we have to make a judgment as to whether or not we can fill in.
I'd like to add, because I think that's a real pertinent question, and it was relating to the forms. The possibility to connect to that is to do, like you say, make a personal call at that time, but then take the notes and then if it be possible to go make sure that you follow through with the documentation on this particular form so that you could always have a tracking of how your interaction with that client is, because then over a period of time we want to make sure that they're staying consistently involved and engaged in this process. But to get back to your question, sometimes the form may not be available to you. A lot of the forms that we have, which you received on your USB, cord, so sometimes you may be able to get to a computer and plug it up and pull it up like that. They're not going to always be like handheld pieces of paper. So that might be another option, is you keep a little USB with you down the line and take your notes from your paper and then put it and transfer it that way. That might be another solution to a problem like that.
Right.